Shrim Dleem Jyoti Brahmaya Namah. Om Shrim Dleem Jyoti Brahmaya Namah.
Will you put it down?
You can, yeah.
You have to do it from the top.
They say Achyuta, during his Jyoti sadhana, the Jyoti Samhita that he wrote starts off saying that Vishnu appeared to him and said, what do you want to know? He said, I want to know about Jyoti, God is light. And then he just merged into light. He asked for that and merged into light, and the understanding of light was revealed to him. Om Shrim Dleem Jyoti Brahmaya Namah. So today we're going to do the 7th house from Arudha Lagna 8th and hopefully get all the way through the 9th. If Suan lets us. 7th house. What's the 7th house from the from 7th house from the Arudha Lagna represent?
Obstruction.
Obstruction to what? Image. Only obstruction?
No, it's a doorway that you go through to do something. It's a doorway.
It's spa something, isn't it? I forgot the name, the Sanskrit.
Dwara.
Dwara.
It's a door. Anything else?
The doorway is for the...
What if Jupiter's there?
You'll be interacting with learned people?
You said it had something to do with fame, I know.
I have Jupiter and Sun.
What's it mean?
Some spiritual stuff.
What'd you say?
Talk louder. I want to hear you commit.
Jupiter and Sun.
What if Saturn's there?
Old people.
Old people what?
Or poor people.
What? What about them?
Maybe to serve them in order to move beyond your Arudha Lagna.
What do you think, Mo?
Saturn is there with Jupiter and Sun?
Nope, just Saturn.
I think it's...
What's the difference between Saturn being there and Jupiter being there?
well, Saturn is going to block your movement upwards in life.
What about Jupiter?
Jupiter will help it.
Jupiter will what?
Jupiter will help you move up. It's going to show the kind of people that are going to help you too.
But if you're both there.
If you're both there, it's going to depend on Dasha. So the 7th house, is it Rajas, Tamas, or Sattva? From Arudha Lagna.
What type of
Guna from Arudha Lagna.
Rajas.
Rajas.
Oh yeah, the
Rajas, yeah.
And what's the ayana?
Kama.
Kama. So it's Rajas, Kama. It's pretty strong Kama then. If we look at our other Kama houses, we have the 3rd house, which is what guna?
Thomas.
So it's Tamas Kama. If we look at the 11th house, our other Kama sthana, guna. Sattva. So we have sattva, kama. Kama's desire. What we want, the pleasures in our life. How we get the pleasures in our life. So the 11th house is showing us the sattvic pleasures and the sattvic ways to get our pleasures. The 3rd house, it's tamas. It's showing us who we beat over the head to get our pleasures. And that's just analogy-wise. We're not hitting anyone over the head. It's a little bit more the forceful tamasic way that we're getting things. And the 7th house is that rajas, kama. So it's all the desire. Kama in itself is very rajasic, right? So it's bringing up all this desire, and it's a very what we want in this world, and how we're going to go, and how we, whenever you think about what you want, if you don't have enough money, your mind is constantly wondering about how it's going to make more money. If you don't have a boyfriend, the mind is constantly wondering how it's going to get a boyfriend, what the boyfriend's going to look like. If the person doesn't have a job, they're constantly scheming about how they're going to get a job. That rajas, guna, is bringing up all these desires and thoughts, okay, of trying to get whatever you don't have. That's the 7th house from Arudha Lagna. That's our first understanding. Arghala. What's the Arghala of the 1st and 7th? That's what I wanted to do today. I wanted to do Arghala.
That's right.
We got to have enough time for some Arghala practice. 1st and 7th. What's the Arghala? Is it a primary Arghala? No? Primary or secondary?
It's a secondary.
You sure?
Are you talking about the Arghala for the 7th house? See, that's
1st and 7th.
I don't understand what you mean.
No, but it's
7th house. What kind of Arghala? Where does it fit in the Arghala scheme?
You mean where do they give Arghala to?
Relative to the Arudha Lagna, what's the 7th? What's our primary Arghala?
Yeah, I don't recall
4,
giving
2,
any
and
Arghala.
11.
Huh?
I thought it was either obstruction.
Primary Arghala is 4, 2, and 11.
4, 2, and 11 is primary. And secondary?
Secondary is 5, 8, and 5, 8, and 12.
Yeah.
5, 8, and 12?
5 and 8. No 12. That's Virodha, obstruction.
Oh, okay.
So where's the 7th fit in there?
I don't think there's anything associated with the 7th.
That's right, it's a tertiary Arghala. 3rd level. Trick question, right?
So 7th is 3rd level Arghala.
Yeah, it's 3rd level Arghala. And how it works is, and you see this both from Lagna itself and Arudha Lagna. Which one has more planets? There's more planets in the Lagna. Who do you think about most of the time? You or your wife? You or the husband?
Yourself?
There's more planets in the 7th. Who do you think about most of the time?
Your partner.
Okay, real simple. If there's 4 planets in the Lagna and 0 in the 7th, then even when you are doing things for other people, you're thinking about yourself. Oh, I'm doing this because I'm, There's still a very much self-thought, a self-focus. So with Arudha Lagna, we have the same thing. Is the focus more on ourselves or more on the external aspect of society? Because from Lagna, it's you and your spouse. But from Arudha Lagna, it's you and society.
Isn't it what it appears like to others? It looks like you're like, if you had more planets than you were to look.
It's going to show where you're focusing. Your energy's going in
Anyway,
one area more
okay.
than the other. That's why we're going to work on Arghala a little bit, just to show it's all about energy. Where the focus, where the energy is going. It's one way or the other. There's a current that's going in this direction. Just same with the 2 and the 12. There's a current. The 2 is saving money. The 12 is spending money. They're not happening at the same time. The current's either expending or saving. It's going one way or the other. So that's the Arghala is these currents. Which way is the energy going? Okay. So it has that tertiary Arghala. Very important to pay attention to. Malefics block that. It's the door. Malefics cause obstructions there. Or Nietzsche planets. Benefics, Nietzsche there will also cause obstruction. If they're in an enemy sign, maybe they'll help you eventually, but they'll cause obstruction at first. where benefics or exalted planets are helping you through that doorway.
There's no plan.
No planet, it's going to be depending on the Lord. Yeah. So, let's see. Parashara says, and this is verse 25 of the Padadhyaya, the chapter on Arudas. If the seventh house from the Arudha Lagna there is Jupiter, Venus, and or Moon, all three of them or even one of them, the native will become wealthy. Lakshmivan. Someone who has Lakshmi.
I know somebody like that, it's true.
What do they have?
Moon in the 7th. It's Arudha is Sagittarius, Moon's in Gemini.
Mm-hmm. So Moon, Venus, Jupiter. Those particular ones in the 7th from Arudha Lagna bring money. They make a person wealthy, prosperous. Moon, Venus, and Jupiter. Next verse, Prashar. He's specifically mentioning those planets. Next verse. If the seventh from the place of one's own rise, and I like that. He says the place of one's own rise. The seventh from the place of one's own rise. So he's basically, in that little verse, he's hiding what the, Arudha Lagna is representing. If in the seventh from the place of one's own rise, there are benefics or exalted planets, then one is wealthy, Shriman. Famous, and their good reputation will be supported. So benefics or exalted planets bring, they make us prosperous because they make us successful. They help us through the doorway into our life. They bring us the keys. Society, the way the world works is if you know the right people, things happen. When there's benefics or exalted planets there, the right people and connections happen, and they connect you to the good places. If there's malefics there, you're being blocked, and it's not happening.
So does it happen at a certain time based on dasa cycles, or?
Well, there's different levels. Dashas will be important, as well as maturity of planets will be important, as well as a few other things. But if you use dashas and maturities of planets, you'll get good results.
What about Papa Grahas exalted?
If it's exalted, it'll get you through the doorway. What do you got there? You got something exalted? No? Just asking?
No, my son has
Exalted what?
not exalted. You see, Rahu is in Taurus.
In Taurus. If when it's exalted, it gets you through the doorway. It won't be the nicest person getting you through the doorway. An exalted Rahu might be a money-hungry, bad, dirty politician. A very dishonest politician, rich, gives him signs off the right visa so that everything goes through. In this way. So it's showing also who's getting you through that doorway. But if it's exalted, it'll get you through. Make sense?
Is Mercury is then included in the second verse? 'Cause
Mercury's
that's
included in the
not
second.
verse,
But the first verse said Lakshmivan, one who actually has Lakshmi. And the second one said Shriman. And I've never seen those two differentiated before, but he's definitely kind of saying that Jupiter, Venus, and Moon are going to be a little bit more powerful to give good results. Where the other benefics, which is you're throwing in basically just Mercury, is, doesn't have the same level to lift you up to. But it's still going to be very beneficial for you as long as it's unassociated with malefics.
So is Sun a malefic in this case?
If it is weak in any way, yes. If it's strong and well placed, then it won't behave as bad. It's really going to, because the thing is, what's opposite the sun is in full moon. So when the Arudha, when the sun's in the seventh, it's making the Arudha Lagna full moon. Okay, so Parashara mentions these combinations to, okay. Particularly an exalted planet, 7th from Arudha Lagna, gives Raja Yoga. It's literally a Raja Yoga. It literally not just is good for you, but it literally will lift a person up to high status. Okay. So, if we look, the 2nd and the 7th are Maraka houses. What's the difference between the two, though? From Arudha Lagna.
What's the rise and fall of your reputation? It's not your physical body, it's your image.
Okay. For both of them.
For
Rise
both
and
of
fall. Exactly. That's beautiful, actually. What other differences are there between the actual 2nd and the 7th individually?
Yeah, guna, right?
Huh?
The guna is different.
Mm-hmm. What's the difference?
The second is sattva and the seventh is rajasa.
And so how's that, what do we see relative to that difference?
Well, the second is what supports the image versus the seventh, which is what...
But what if a malefic's there?
Then it's not going to support your image.
Okay.
So
And in the same way, a malefic in the 7th isn't going to support your image. So what's the difference between the 2nd and the 7th?
Is the second your own doing, but the seventh is someone else?
Beautiful. The 2nd is a sattvic house. Sattva represents Vishnu. It's basically what is being internally sustaining you. So if there's a malefic, a bad combination in the 2nd from Arudha Lagna, is your own doing. Let's say Saturn's there in the 2nd from Arudha Lagna, you lied and were caught, and that hurt your reputation. If it's in the 7th from Arudha Lagna, someone else is stopping you and not letting it happen. You're not, you show up and they say no, they shut the door on you. Saturn's not letting you in. He delays things. They think you're too young and they tell you to come back when you're 40-something.
And it doesn't matter if Saturn's a good or bad planet for you, it's just that it's specific.
He has to be strong. He has to be exalted in order to give a good result. What do you have 7th from?
Well, it's a great example because my 7th from Arudha Lagna is exalted moon. And in the 2nd house is Saturn, which is a good planet because I'm Capricorn, but it's still Saturn. So,
Still Saturn, yeah.
yeah.
Won't be as bad as, the more malefic it is, the worse the situation gets. The stronger, the nicer Saturn is in your chart, then it creates a lesser of a bad situation. Bad can be, there's various levels of negative situations.
I get fame for being in the tabloids. That's where I've had some fame. National Enquirer, Star Magazine. You know what I'm saying? It's a little kind of tainted, a little, reputation and stuff like that. So, stuff that I've done has been always a little bit more.
But it's stuff that you did, so.
Yeah, sort of put into it, but yeah.
Important thing to understand, though, there. When we look from the Lagna, what's the difference? Because it's the rise and fall of the body, right?
Right.
What's the difference going to be there?
So the second house is what you ingest
That's the mark.
physically, whereas
What are you eating?
the seventh would be what the partner's physically doing to you, I guess.
One's more natural, one's kind of unnatural. Your own 2nd is more your own life force is giving out on the situation. 7th is, negative factors coming in and hurting you. 2nd is connected to Vishnu. 7th is connected to Shiva with that trident. Very detailed. But when you get these details, and you start looking at a chart, and you can be that detailed in a reading, people are very pleased. You know, they're sick, you can sit there, you're sick because you did this, this, this. Or they're sick because they went somewhere and caught this, this, this. Little differentiations like that make a very big difference. And in the end, in treatment, will also make a difference. So I went to the next. You got that chart up there.
So are you saying if you had malefics in the second and the regular in the D1, it's
Malefics?
your own undoing? Is there malefics in the second? It's sort of maybe what you do to yourself to hurt your body?
Yeah.
And if they're in the seventh, it could be a car accident or something.
Well, those are
Very
Marka
control.
Bhavas. And they become primarily active in their Vimshotri Dasha. So, yes. One is more your own doing, one is more the external doing.
You're talking about from Lagna for.
But there's multiple, when we're talking on the from Lagna, there's multiple other factors to take into account. Like Bada Kesh and 6th and 8th Lord and things of that nature. But from Arudha Lagna, it's your doing and your interaction with others. Which everything is an interaction between others, but where is the root of the situation coming from? So if we look at George Bush's chart, which is up there, can you see it okay? Do we need to make it a little bigger? Can you change the percentage to maybe like 150? So as Arudha Lagna, he's a Cancer Lagna, and as Arudha Lagna is in the 5th house in Scorpio with Ketu. What's he have 7th from there? When he ran for election, what did people say about him? What were the negatives that people said against George?
Which election do you mean?
The first time that he ever, his doorway already went through the doorway once he was up for re-election. So at that point, we're focusing more on his Arudha Lagna itself. But that first election, we're trying to get him into a new position.
He was a party boy in college.
Party boy was a cheerleader,
Party boy, alcoholic.
alcoholic.
Other companies he ran went bankrupt.
All Rahu kind of, he messed things up. He partied too much. How did he get through it? Why did he get through it? Shouldn't it block his way? Not let him through?
He cheated. No, but it's
Wrong.
That's an indication. It is.
It's
Probably
also
did, though.
exalted.
I think he did cheat.
I mean, some would say, right? Rahu and Taurus.
Mm-hmm. So one is exalted. So it actually put him through the door. But
in a negative
who
way.
put him through the door?
And cheats and scandals.
the
The
Supreme
Supreme
raping
Court.
our country. Bin Laden.
According to the indications.
Some foreigner.
Foreigner put him through the door?
Yeah, the Bin Ladens.
Yeah. Friends? Shady friends?
Shady people. Rahu people. Shady politicians. Okay? It's that a strong Rahu there put him through the door. Another thing that we're looking at in his chart is look at where the 7th Lord from the Arudha Lagna is placed.
Venus is
Ninth.
in the Lagna.
Ninth from Arudha.
It's 9th from Arudha Lagna and it's in the Lagna. Is it well placed?
Yeah.
That means that he has the possibility of breaking through that indication.
Because the Lord is well placed.
Because the Lord of it is well placed.
From the Arudha Lagna?
Both.
The Lord of the Sun.
First from the Arudha Lagna, then from Lagna.
Golica's though, that's not so good, is it?
Say again?
The Golica there is not so good, is it?
Well, it's not that it's not so good. That's who he is.
I know it's who he is, but that's not good.
Yeah, for this indication, it's not. It's 9th from the Arudha Lagna, and actually, as a personality, it's not good. But we'll get to talking about the 9th from Arudha Lagna, and Gulika 9th from Arudha Lagna is actually great. Great for him, not for us. It means all the goons and bad guys are out there on his side protecting him. Okay?
That's for sure.
So it's great for him.
He has Saturn there too.
Mm-hmm. He has a lot there.
You would consider Rahu and Taurus exalted here?
You can, yeah. You can, Taurus and Gemini are both strong placements for Rahu. Okay. So, now if we see a malefic in the 7th house, what is our remedy? Any guesses? Jupiter? What else? What would you give them, Mo? You see somebody, they have a terrible Saturn in the 7th house from the root of Lagna. Terrible. They have no friends. You'll see, I have a few example charts. People are like, I have no friends. I got Saturn 7th from a root of Lagna. Terribly afflicted. What do I do? Moon? He said Moon and Jupiter. Can throw in Venus there soon too? It's what makes a person prosperous. And what do you think? What would you give them? You look at the chart, they're there in front of you, you know that's a problem now. No one told you, you gotta guess it. What would you say?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What would you give them? What would you say?
You have to help somebody get married.
You just gotta help them. They're like, no one will hire them for a job. No one will hang out with them. No one will. What do you think, Mo? Guess.
Give us a hint. What did you say?
Do charity.
Charity?
I would say the
Kali.
Jyotirlingam.
Yeah.
Because of Saturn?
The Mahavidyas.
Why not Durga?
Malefics in the 7th from Arudha Lagna are removed by the Mahavidya of the malefic. If it happens to be a debilitated benefic, then the Mahavidya the benefic. What are the primary Mahavidyas that most people know about? Unless you're Mahavidya. Everybody knows about Kali, right? What planets Kali represent? Saturn. Everybody knows about the Saturn. Mahavidya. Does it make sense? I mean, how often, so when you got to get through the doorway and Saturn's in your way, you worship Kali and she lets you through. It makes sense why everybody's knows about Kali. What about for Mars? Mars, maybe you guys don't know. In India, she's well known. Not Chamunda. She's not Mahavidya. There's 10 Mahavidya. Bhagala. Bhagala is for Mars and for Rahu. That's Bhagala is for Mars.
Because of Ronnie wanting you to.
Bhagala?
Yeah, because he had me doing some stuff for her, so.
Yeah, most people don't. In India, she's a very common deity, but she's not popular in America for some reason.
I have 4 planets in that 7th, and they're also my Badak too, and it's Saturn, Sun, Venus, and Mercury.
Saturn, Sun, Venus, and Mercury. So Venus and Mercury are taking care of you. Sun is okay, and Saturn's the only one hurting. So during certain periods, some hard things come up, but you have more benefics than malefics.
So if there's no planets but the Lord is Mars, it would be Bhagala?
If Mars is there, causing obstruction.
No, if it's the Lord is Mars, but there's no.
The Lord is Mars, and there's an obstruction. Like the person's just not, Generally, if there's no planet there, you don't need to do a Mahavidya. Generally, I've never seen a case where that's needed. What about Rahu? Chinnamasta. How do you know that, Mo?
Is it Chinta or Chinna?
Chinnamasta.
Chinna.
Maybe one of these days we'll focus on some simple Mahavidya mantras that we can give to people as remedies. But at the moment, if you can't give them the remedy, but you see that that's a problem, recommend them to Nandu. Okay, he can give them that mantra
So they've,
until you know yourself.
so if they have all three, then they have to do remedy for all three, like all three malefics.
Then you take the one that's the worst and do the remedy for that one first. Once the results are there, then you take the next worst and you do the remedy for that one. Example is a guy that has Rahu and Saturn there. His first remedy was for Kali, and he did a very intense Kali sadhana. It removed all the Saturnian energy from there, but he still has Rahu energy. But for him, things are already so much better. He's halfway happy. He's going to eventually do the Chinnamasta practice and remove the full effect, but not
Because
yet.
I have all three. And plus
All three.
Jupiter, yeah.
Plus Jupiter.
Yeah.
Well, for Jupiter, then for you, really strengthening Jupiter is going to be very powerful to kind of help mitigate many of the situations there.
Tara, right?
But not as Mahavidya. Only the malefics for that case.
So
In this, unless Jupiter is debilitated, it's better to worship Jupiter in another form.
So she should do strengthen Jupiter, but also do the most powerful malefic first. Same.
Eventually, yeah. If it's causing a problem, if the dasha is there and it's causing a problem, like what dasha are you running?
Venus.
Venus dasha. So she's not really suffering right now. But after Venus, she has Sun. Okay. I mean, maybe in an Antar dasha of Venus, she's going to run into some obstacles. She's trying to get that raise, and everybody else keeps getting hired, and they're just not looking at her. And that Antar dasha is there. Then we can do the remedy. But we want to do it when it's needed. We don't want to just do remedy. If you look at a chart, you could find about 100 remedies for everything in the chart. But we got to understand that we do the remedies when that problem is actually causing a problem. Because that problem can come up at any point in the person's life. So we wait till the problem is either just before it's happened, or most of the time they come to you while it's happening. Okay? Venus what?
Venus, I just started actually.
Just started.
Yeah.
So you're Venus.
Yeah, Venus.
Okay, and before that you were...
Ketu.
Yeah. So...
So Ketu doesn't do more things.
Well, generally, Ketu, when Ketu's there, it's more Rahu that's causing a problem in the Arudha Lagna itself. That Rahu is crushing the Arudha, so dirtying it. And it needs to be remedies to fix that. What's the remedy that I recommend for that?
Chinnamasta.
No, not for when it's with the
Rahu
Arudha.
and the Arudha. Oh, no.
And this is one that I learned from some strange guys up in the Himalayas. But I told you that. Rahu and Arudha Lagna. What's other deities for Rahu?
Oh, Durga.
Durga.
That's not a Mahavidya.
No,
Nobody's
it's with the Arudha Lagna. We're not using Mahavidya. We're using Mahavidya for planets in the 7th from Arudha Lagna. 7th from Arudha Lagna, planets there, Mahavidyas are good for. They're good when you worship them as Mahavidyas. Planets in the Lagna, if you worship them as Mahavidyas, you're ruining your image. If you have Mercury there, Mercury is like making you look like a learned scholar. You start doing too much Mahavidya stuff and it can cause problems. So we want to do beneficial things for the planet. Okay. Mahavidyas. Mahavidyas are known as Nila Shakti. I guess, let's see. Simple mantras for the Mahavidyas. So what's a simple mantra for Kali? Simplest mantra.
Cream.
Not bija. Bija mantras can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, actually. Cream Kali cream. Cream Kali cream. Simple mantra. Bhagala. What do you think?
Bagalaye Namah.
You can do Om Bhagalaye Nama. Possible. Just plain Nama mantra. Let's do Om Kaliye Nama.
It's for Mars?
For Kali, I'm saying. Or Bhagala. That's just a Nama mantra, it's fine. Hreem Bhagala Hreem. Hreem, yeah.
That's for Mars?
Bhagala, yeah,
Oh,
Mars.
green.
You can also do Om Bhagalaye Nama. Om Chinnamasta Ye Nama. Possible. Very possible. 7th house. So, but we see that here the Lord of the 7th is well placed. What's the Lord of your 7th from Arudha Lagna do? So what? No, 7th from Arudha Lagna. So if we look at this, your Arudha Lagna is in what sign?
It's in 11th. I mean 11th. What's that?
Aquarius.
Come
And opposite of Aquarius is.
Leo.
So where's the sun
It's in Aries.
from Arudha Lagna?
Oh, no, third house.
It's 3rd house from Arudha Lagna, and it's an exalted sun. So you think she can get over those malefics?
Oh,
Yeah.
She's burning them up. Okay, particularly with that sun energy, you know. So planets in the 7th from Arudha Lagna, when they're not well placed, show who opposes you, who's blocking you from getting something. So if we have Mars was one of the planets there. What's the first level of interpretation of who that Mars is blocking you?
Brother or sibling.
siblings.
A brother or sibling. The first level of interpretation is the home. No, just what's in the karka relative to the home. There's many different levels of, is it the karka at home, the karka in the workplace, the karka in the garden, so the first thing we see is Mars is brothers, Sun is fathers. So it's showing that the brother and the father, maybe you want to go off and be a big lawyer. What do you do? What kind of
Software engineer.
software engineer? Maybe you want to go off and be a software engineer, and the father and the brother are like, well, you sure you don't want to maybe do this, or the support is not fully there. Okay, it's not being given fully. Or actually, it's not the sun; it's Mars and Jupiter. Jupiter's there.
Saturn and Rahu and Jupiter.
Yeah. So, but do you see what it's the first level? The second level is the part of society signified, karaka, of that planet. So, Mars represents other engineers, cops, police, things of that nature. Saturn is representing poor people or old people. So the older people aren't supporting you fully and getting you fully to that position. Okay? So those are our levels of interpretation. First, we start at the home. We see what's going on there. Then we go to the level of society represented by those planets, blocking you. At the same way, if there's a planet, actually, I wanted to cover. So that planet in the 7th is blocking you, but it's blocking you openly. Very important differentiation from another house. But when I say blocking you openly, the brother says, are you really sure you want to do that? Maybe you'll be better at this. Or, he's not hiding the fact that he's not supporting that path. When these planets fall in the 12th house, they block you secretly.
The 12th house
From the Arudha Lagna. Yeah. So those planets, and in the same way. So if Mars is there, then the brother is literally saying, maybe he's at the same school if that's the case. And he says, she's not really good at, he doesn't help put in a good word for you. So a planet in the 12th house, you never want those type of people writing you letters of recommendation. They just won't, if they put it in an envelope and mail it before you see it, watch out. They definitely included your bad traits. And they didn't water them down like you would have wished to. Even if there's no planet there, the Lord of the 12th will not be good for you.
What if you have the Upada,
Well, that creates a whole dynamic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It creates a whole dynamic of having to learn how to be a little bit more open and work together better and things of that nature. We'll talk about that when we go deep into Upapada.
Now, if they're benefics or malefics, that doesn't matter?
Unfortunately, the malefics, when the planet's good in the 7th, it's helping you. When it's bad, it's not helping you.
Right.
In the 12th, it's
All
It's-
that.
it's primarily, it's not good for you.
So even if there's planets there, the Lord is also not a good planet?
If there's no planets there,
Okay. So the Lord
then the Lord.
okay.
Like for me, I don't have any planet there, but it's ruled by Leo. So the sun and government and authority becomes
The karma.
not beneficial for me.
Uh-huh. So I have Jupiter and Mercury.
Jupiter and Mercury. Okay. So that means
Students and teachers.
other teachers, you kind of sometimes give you that blockage from fully getting to where you want to be. And on another level, that's studying. Jupiter and Mercury are studying. If it's that studying is your own secret enemy. Yeah.
But do you ever look at the placement of the Lord like you did in Mila's chart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's got something special in the 12th of Arudha Lagna?
I have Moon and Mars.
Moon and Mars. So now you know the mom and your brothers are,
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
and they won't say it to your face.
Yes.
But, behind your back there,
I had my cousin brother,
Mm-hmm.
whom I loaned I was a co-signer on his BMW,
Mm-hmm.
and he tried to repay, and the banks were after me, tried to tarnish my image.
That's tarnishing the image, all right. This also works from Upapada, though. Say Moon is 12th from Upapada. The mother-in-law is definitely, a dangerous woman for your, she's saying things behind your back. She's opposing you and you don't know about it. But the thing is, secret enemies are really rough for most people, but as Jyotishis, we see who they are.
Now you're using generally people as an example.
Generally.
Okay, but in my case it's studying.
Um,
how do I get around that if I want to study something?
We'll talk later about that remedy.
God,
And you didn't have any children, right?
no.
So, that's also a children type of combination. So, it's really not too big of if the planets become more malefic, then they also cause more problems too. So 7th and 12th are working together in that way. Let's see. So 7th, people that oppose you. At the same time, it's also the people that help you, if they're well placed. So, for example, this week I did the chart of a gardener, and she had Venus 7th from her Arudha Lagna. What's going to help her image to rise?
Artists,
Women.
musicians,
Artists, musicians, women,
single women, or women without children.
single women, women without children,
Sisters?
sisters.
Well, she should be wealthy. Was she wealthy?
Artists.
She does okay. She has her, primarily runs her own gardening business, so
Women friends?
women friends. She's a gardener.
the creative.
Botanist?
It's incorporating design into her gardening work. It's like
Landscapers?
outdoor landscaping design, not landscaper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Landscape designers? Flower florist?
That's what I recommended it to her. I told her, I said, so, because it's in that axis with the Arudha Lagna, I said, you know a lot about flowers. She says, yes, that's what I specialize in. I said, do you advertise that that's, your specialty? She said, I'm just, I advertise as a gardener. And I said, start advertising that you're a specialist in, flowers in your gardening, and that you can make, all about the colors and the beauty and everything. Really advertise about that Venus. And the big thing is, it's Venus. And yes, it's flowers. But who loves flowers more, men or women? Women. So she's going to get more women by advertising about flowers. For the most part. So using that will really promote her. Another case was either this past week or the week before. The woman had Saturn and Mercury, 7th from the Arudha Lagna, and the Arudha was in the 10th house, meaning that Saturn and Mercury were in the 4th. What do you think?
Gay people, or people who don't have a sex life, monks. That's what it is.
It's more in a Vamsha you'd see that, but you could say, maybe.
I mean, as far as people who would help her,
people that might help her. Who else, though?
Saturn.
Aging youth.
Aging youth.
That's right, old gay men.
The big thing is, if it was maybe conjunct the A7 or something, maybe in the 7th house, which it couldn't be for the Arudha Lagna, or something indicating along that line, maybe we could say that. But it's in the 4th house.
Okay. Women living at home alone.
Where do women come
Why
in?
women, yeah.
Oh, no, I was sorry. I was thinking 4th house is like doing something that's related to the home. So it has to be like a home-based or in-home service.
Right now she's still in school. She's going for her PhD or her master's somewhere in there.
So something in the wisdom, something from the Mercury.
But is Mercury causing a problem 7th from Arudha Lagna?
No.
Generally not, right?
What you want to boost it somehow.
It's the Saturn that's causing more of the problems.
Right. So old people that are stuck in home shut-ins.
Is it the home needs to be fixed up, it's dilapidated?
4th is also education, isn't it?
Yeah.
Primary education.
Mm-hmm.
I told her, in her, when she has the time, to do some donation work, some seva, with children that have mental or learning disabilities. Saturn hurting that Mercury. Mercury is children. And Saturn and Mercury together shows learning deficits. It's something I've seen over time, that Saturn-Mercury combination shows it often when it comes into a career placement. It's children that work with it's people that work with children that have learning disabilities, or mentally retarded children, or slow something along that line.
Could it be ill children too, like children with, say,
Maybe.
chronic diseases?
Maybe. The few times I've seen it in people's career charts, they worked with they had already were working with those kind of people. So the charts that have taught me, that, and so I saw that as what's blocking her. At the same time, if she utilized it, it would be her doorway to get through something. So by doing a little help there, who knows who she would meet or what situation she would come into, or however, it would get her through to really get to really open her up and allow her to find her success in the world. Right? But you see how that's just my most recent use of the 7th from Arudha Lagna to help somebody. And so the point of what I just what we just talked about is, you either have to destroy the planet, you use the Mahavidya to totally remove it from your life, or you make it happy, which is what I advise the woman to take care of children with learning disabilities. She's pleasing those planets, right? So the planets will let her through. So we destroy them, remove them from our life, or we make them happy so they open the doorway for us. any which way, the energy has to be, we have to move that energy so we can go through. Sense? Make sense? Exalted planets. So exalted planets get us through that doorway. Jupiter, Venus, Moon really lift us up. What about the transit of Jupiter, Venus, and Moon through the 7th house? You sure?
Jupiter.
Doesn't have opposite result effects?
What if it's a transiting Venus debilitation point, or transiting Jupiter through Capricorn?
Well, that in that
Maybe.
case, it definitely won't help, huh?
Yeah.
It will.
It'll cause an obstacle, right?
Mhm.
You were going where I wanted to go in a minute.
Oh.
So that would mean if your Arudha Lagna is only in Cancer.
If it is in Cancer, then the transit of Jupiter 7 from it won't help. But otherwise, in the 11 other situations,
It should help.
it should be a good transit. It would be a time where if somebody has maybe a curse of their Arudha Lagna, or there's some difficulties, for them to really try and promote themselves and get to the next level of whatever they're doing.
So, if Jupiter is the is the lord of your 7th house in your Lagna,
Mhm.
and it and Jupiter by transit goes through the 7th house, that would be a good.
That's good. Even if it's not the Lord there, it's still going to be good.
Even if it's not so good there.
Even if it's not the Lord, just that transit of Jupiter, the transit of Venus and Moon. Jupiter there is at least there a whole year. Venus is only going to be there about a month. Moon's only going to be there 2.5 days. But bottom line is those transits are going to be very beneficial. At the same time, what about Saturn transiting 7th from Arudha Lagna?
But what if your Jupiter natally isn't in a good place?
Natally, it still will, during that transit, be beneficial. It won't be as beneficial, but it'll still be beneficial. Yeah.
I have Jupiter transiting my Arudha Lagna now. And,
Good.
yeah, and there's a lot going on in terms of studying and knowledge.
You're raising up to another level.
Yes, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very pleasant though.
You're studying a
And
lot.
Mars.
You're
yes,
studying
that's right.
lots. So, yeah. But you're raising yourself to the next level of Jyotish right now. So that's what, that Jupiter transit over the Arudha. Where is Jupiter good transiting from Arudha Lagna? We talked about this last week.
Triangles?
Fourth house.
Quadrant.
Second
Quadrant.
quadrant.
Okay, quadrants. Not trines. Trines from Lagna, trines in Rashi. But from Arudha Lagna, Jupiter is good in Kendras. So 4th, 7th, and 10th, and Arudha Lagna itself. That's where Jupiter really helps you get uplifted in life.
Transiting quadrants.
Can you
Mhm.
compare the transit of Saturn over Arudha Lagna versus transit of Saturn 7th from Arudha Lagna? What's going to be the difference?
Transiting through Arudha Lagna, people are going to be accusing you of lying or stealing, or you're going to get accused of something you didn't do. People will, clothing, they're not going to, it'll be a time period the person won't look as good as they normally look. Just the image, things that hurt the image. Something will happen during that transit that will make the image less in the world. Unless the person is living totally pure, a totally sattvic life. Because when you live a purely sattvic life, then Saturn, he has nothing to, get you with. But let's say you're cheating on your taxes just a little bit here and there, or you're, maybe you have just, you're not cheating on your wife, but you have another friend that you have dinner with, or something like this. When Saturn goes over that Arudha Lagna, then he has something to get you with.
What's the 7th from Arudha Lagna? What happens?
7th from Arudha Lagna, it's a situation where you're trying to get something and you can't. You're not getting the raise. There was a position that opened and there's 3 people available for the position. You're better than those other people there, but that the woman in the cubicle next to you got it, and probably because she was a woman and the company didn't have any women in the upper ranks, but you didn't get it. Bottom line, the door was blocked, even though it was you've been there longer, you deserved it. It's making things aren't happening. You know what I mean? You're trying to get...
So the same with then Jupiter would help the image going over the Arudha Lagna, or
Exactly.
help you through the door in
Exactly.
the 7th realm.
Exactly. And remedies. Let's say somebody has, Saturn natally with Arudha Lagna. Or chart I looked at pretty recently, the guy had, it was aspected by Saturn, Mars, and Rahu. Aspected. No, he had Mars with the Arudha Lagna, and it was aspected by Saturn and Rahu. Is that a cursed Arudha? Can Arudas be cursed?
Yes, they can.
You sure?
Yeah.
According to who?
According to Sanjay, because he's like, you can have cursed with the Padalagnas too.
Yeah. The thing is, you can have a cursed house. And so if the house is cursed, then all the Arudas in the house are cursed. Okay. So, okay, huh?
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
You just
I
realized.
just like, oh shit.
Yeah. So if the planet's cursed in a house, all the Arudas with it are cursed as well. I see Mo scratching. So he has a totally afflicted. I gave him remedies for that. And literally he had a bunch of readings before, and nobody could really tell him. No one was answering him, giving him what he wanted to hear. And so I just looked and I saw Saturn. Saturn's in the 2nd from his Lagna in Virgo, aspecting the Arudha Lagna. Saturn in Virgo, it's very refined, very detail oriented. Likes things in the right place. It's in the 2nd, so he talks like that. So he's always telling everybody where to put things. It's aspecting the Arudha Lagna, hurting the Arudha Lagna. So he tells everybody how to do things and how it should be organized, and they dislike him. Right? So you see that aspecting. Mars is there in the 11th house. 11th house shows being a little bit forceful. 11th house, Mars in the 11th shows being forceful to get what you want. It's in the Arudha Lagna, so he's seen as forceful. Every time he gets pushy with something, people aren't happy with him. And then Rahu was, I can't remember, but in the same way, you understand the story of Rahu. Every time he does that, it's in the 7th was Rahu. So every time he interacts with people a bit Rahuvian in nature, it's, hitting his Arudha, and people are not happy. So he's getting a bad image from all these planets. Now, let's say he wants to do a sadhana. He wants to do maybe a Mahavidya or something. When he should begin that is when Saturn is in Kendra to that Arudha. Particularly if Saturn is 7th from it, the remedies that he do will be very beneficial because he has that support. And he can move forward. Move to, Arudha, it's all about moving to the next level, being more successful. What if the Arudha is in Aries and Saturn is transiting, the 7th?
Oh, it's exalted, so it's a good opportunity to get able to.
You sure? But it's Saturn.
But it's exalted.
Good.
It's exalted.
In the same way, if Jupiter is debilitated,
Right.
it doesn't matter that it's Jupiter. It's actually going to cause more problems.
Right.
In the same way, if it's in Aries, it's going to be good. If the Arudha's in Cancer, that Mars transit's going to be good. So anytime a planet is exalted, whatever the planet exalted from the Arudha Lagna Lord is going through that sign, it's a good time. It's a good time to really push it and make some progress. Move to the next level.
An own sign wouldn't count, right? So 7th house being...
If it's a malefic,
Scorpio
it won't, no. So can you pull up Aurangzeb's chart? Aurangzeb? Is that how you say it correctly? Aurangzeb. I always want to put an A in there. Aurangzeb, but it's Aurangzeb.
Yeah, who's a runner?
Aurangzeb. What's it mean? Do you know? Does it have a meaning?
That's the Islamic name.
It's just an Islamic name? Okay. Can we, or just click on the chart and actually slide it so it's bigger. Yeah. Okay, so what's the Lagna? Is Lagna. Lagna.
Is Arudha Lagna?
Aquarius.
So does he have one Arudha Lagna or two? So
It's two.
so calculate the two Arudha Lagnas.
Eleventh and the fourth house.
As we saw, everybody that was here when Inder was here that one day, we saw you can't just trust what Jehora says when it comes to these situations. Those who weren't here, we were teaching about the third house from the Arudha Lagna, and the rule was when Saturn and Rahu are in the 11th, the person has no older siblings. And so Inder's like, it's wrong! It's wrong! Very loud, you notice. And he said, your rule's wrong. And he pulled up his chart. But I was looking, and then I realized Scorpio Lagna, he has two Arudha Lagnas. We calculated the other one, and it showed that he had older siblings. So in that way, definitely if it's Aquarius or Scorpio Lagna, calculate both and see which is stronger.
Why Scorpio or Aquarius?
Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Rahu, so it has two lords.
What about Mercury then with Gemini and Virgo?
Mercury, there's just one.
Because there's one planet, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So it's the actual, where Scorpio is ruled by both Mars and Ketu. Okay, yeah. So what are the Arudha Lagnas there?
Taurus and Sagittarius. So one for Saturn, one for
But it can't be the 7th.
Sag and Taurus.
Well, Saturn
Right.
would be Leo, but since it can't be the 7th, it has to be 10th from the 7th. I think that's 10th. 2, 8, 9, 10, yeah. So that's Saturn's Arudha Lagna. Is it in Taurus?
Saturn's is in Taurus, and Rahu's is in
Sag.
Sagittarius. Sagittarius has how many planets?
One. Venus.
One.
And Taurus has
Two.
two. Okay, so
So
we're
that one's the strongest.
so we're using the one that has more things happening there. And 98% of the time, that will be foolproof and working. 98% of the time.
So, please say again. What are we using?
We're the one that has two planets,
Okay.
because there's more energy there. So that's the direction things are going to go.
I thought you had checked the strength for the lords, like Saturn and Rahu.
No, if there's more planets, then that automatically.
Okay.
That's
If
the
there were
first-
no planets, then you had to check the strength.
If there are no planets, then you got to check the strength of the lords.
Okay.
If there's two planets there, then you check and see which is higher degrees. So there's the whole list of rules in their order. So he had, let's see, I looked at his chart. He has nothing in the house 7th from Arudha Lagna, correct? Everybody know the story of Aurangzeb?
No.
He was the end of the Mughal Empire, and he was a Muslim emperor. And his grandfather was Akbar. Akbar was one of the greatest of the Muslim emperors. Being that he was very tolerant, he supported the arts and spirituality, and the Sufis, spread, and Hinduism spread. Everybody was happy under Akbar. Yeah, under Akbar things were good. But then there was Akbar's son, and Akbar's grandson is Aurangzeb. And Aurangzeb, when his father fell sick, threw his father in jail. And now he was, I have written down here, he had 3 siblings, and he was the second from the youngest. So there was 4 of them, and he wasn't the oldest. So he killed his brothers.
When you get power that way, it has to come back on you.
It has to come back on you, but was it a good thing to kill his brothers? According to Raj Jyotish, if we're not talking about karma, for him to be king, if he wants to be king and have power.
Yeah, he had to.
But what in the chart is indicating it?
Because his older brothers would be his enemies.
Yeah, his older brothers would be.
They're the opposition.
Yeah.
Mars
they
is Lord of the
secretly be
7th.
working behind them.
Mars is Lord of the 7th. And it's also secretly, Mars is Lord of the 12th as well from Arudha.
Well, I was
So-
looking at A11 was in the 12th from Arudha Lagna.
Well, not just A11, but it's the Lord of the 11th from Arudha Lagna's Mars.
Right.
So brothers are both
Plotting against
seen enemies as well as secret enemies. They're both in his chart. I didn't even notice that part. And Mars is also aspecting the A6, showing that brothers become enemies. So it was a very smart political choice to remove them all. Okay.
Maybe he had an astrologer.
Huh?
Maybe he had an astrologer.
Most of them had not just an astrologer, but they had multiple astrologers. They had their astrology for their love life, the astrology